Now I think that warning light's come up on the dash because...
Whoa, stop, do it.
I'm breathing heavy. Are you recording?
Yep. Stop.
What? Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of 0 to 60. It's Friday. It is unfortunately lunchtime. I had to do some running around this morning, but it's time to see if we can get it all reconnected and maybe start it up. Oh man, I gotta do some tidying up as well. Plan of attack for today, I've decided to pretty much do it in reverse. So we're gonna try and get the wiring all sorted first. The reason I want to do that is I can't really remember exactly where all the wires run. So I wanna spend some time and make sure we get all that right. Then, actually I might reconnect the AC first. The dude was supposed to be coming around today, but I've told him to hold off. We'll just make sure the engine's gonna run properly before we re-gas it. All right, I'm gonna crack on with that. I will give you an update when I find something interesting. So I've probably spent a good 40 minutes trying to sort the mess out that is the DME box, and it still looks horrific. I can't really work out a good way to go around it, but everything's back in there, everything's connected. I'd say we got a 50-50 chance of everything still working. The only wire that I had to cut to sort of reorganize it was the one for the secondary fuel pump in the tank, the low pressure fuel pump, and that just triggers off of the JB4 port injection. Whilst I was sort of routing all this wiring and trying to work out where it is, oh fuck. It's funny because I've never had to take it off before. I wasn't really aware of where any of it went or anything, but I think I've got everything neat enough. One thing I did find, actually I'll show you on the other manifold. Something's been bugging me yesterday when I bolted the manifold on, and again, it's something I've never really touched, didn't even really think about it. This fitting here, which goes to the throttle body, and I know it's the fuel tank vent valve, but I was like, where the hell does that fitting go? And I just couldn't work it out, couldn't think about it, couldn't see it in the car, but luckily I have found that the breather comes up next to the fuel line, and when I was taking the car out, taking the engine out, it's that line there, I'd actually tucked it right up out the way, and I'd just forgotten that I'd done it. So we worked out one little mystery that was playing on my mind. O2 sensors are connected, the main battery leads are connected. I've just got to put that lid back on, and I think the wiring's done apart from the map sensor, pardon me. All right, what else can I tell you guys? Something else I'm going to do, this is the AC line that was from this car, and you can see just there, got quite a lot of damage. Now, I'm not sure if I did that or if it was before I got the car, but basically where the charge pipe comes down and where one of the hose clamps sits, it was actually grinding away on there. And there is millimeters of tolerance, and I'd actually fitted that piece of rubber to try and protect it, but I'd say we've worn through a fair bit of that alloy line, and miraculously, out of the E90 car that was smashed heavily, we have that line which is actually all good in that section there. So I'm going to swap that AC line, which is one other little thing that I wanted to do for a while. Other than that, I can keep working. Just when I thought I was going to have a win from that E90, it looks like the E90 and E92 hoses are slightly different, unless that one was bent in the crash, but I really don't think it was, because they actually come out on a slightly different angle. Okay, so it's 20 to 8 and I have just been cracking on with it. Now, I know it's not great for filming and I apologise that I haven't sort of filmed everything going back in, but it's all stuff I have sort of done before, and it's really just the reverse of taking it out. But just to summarise what I've done and little niggly things I have come across, connecting the downpipes to the tail section of the exhaust was not too bad alignment-wise. I was probably off about 1 mil, so Definitely enough movement to get them in there. Now this VRS set that I had, the L-Ring or Erling, whichever brand it is, had a different type of gasket to what I normally use, so I thought I'd try and see if it would seal, because I've had issues with these downpipes sealing against the Miltech, and unfortunately they won't seal. So I have had to do, well, I could tell they wouldn't seal. I could get a feeler gauge down there, so I don't know if these are warped maybe, but I have had to do the exhaust putty trick on there. I've managed to get exhaust putty everywhere. O2s are all connected. We have reconnected the drive shaft, hopefully you can see it there. The torque converter bolts are in and Loctited. The shifter linkage is reconnected. The fuel lines, the original fuel line, well, not the original ones, the ones that I fitted, are reconnected. Earth strap is connected. That's all done. Intercooler. Now I kind of wanted to show off this. This is where I've just finished. Now these 7.5-inch stepped intercoolers weigh, I think about 1 million kilos. So it's always a bit of a challenge, but luckily I've got a intercooler holder. So that's our in. I have just got to do the silicone up and hook up the top side of it, but we're actually getting really close. The only parts left to go on the car is the cross brace for the subframe and the thermofan and the front bar, pod filters, and then the rest of the charge pipe. So in reality, I'm actually pretty close to having this all done. Now, like I said, it's 20 to 8 on Friday. I haven't been working on this solid today. I've been doing a few other things, which you guys will see in due course. But what I think I'm gonna do, instead of just buttoning it up now, which is, there's probably only sort of half an hour work, I'm gonna get cleaned up, have some dinner. I'm gonna do a list of things I need to check before I do the first start. So you'll see me tomorrow going through the list and checking everything, just so I don't forget anything. And it's been playing on my mind as I've been putting this back together. I have disconnected and unplugged and undone so many things. It's going to be a miracle if I manage to do it all and not forget anything. Anyway, guys, I'll catch you in the morning, but it'll still be in this video, so I'll see you shortly. Well, guys, it's the next day. I've been out here for nearly an hour now and just been buttoning things up. But apart from, and I got to share it with you, amazingly, I don't know how I remembered it, but I didn't actually do up the heater hose, that little circlip down there yesterday. I just forgotten about it. It's just one of those things, because I wanted to change it for a proper hose clamp, and then I never ended up looking for the hose clamp until this morning when I realised I'd forgotten it. Anyway, we got that done, and that actually took quite a long time because I'd already put some of the intake back on. Then I lost one of the grub screws. The joys of working on cars, it's not always smooth. So yeah, apart from half an hour trying to put a heater hose on, yeah, got the charge pipes all on, pod filters are on, brake booster line is on. We're getting close. I think all that is actually left now is the thermofan, and I thought I'd film that just because I know that that will go pretty smoothly. And one of the reasons I haven't been filming a lot of the stuff is I just don't know how long it's going to take, and I don't want to have the GoPro filming for half an hour of wasted footage, because then the videos would never get edited. Anyway, let's see if we can get this thermofan in without too much hassle. Now I say without too much hassle because, and I have to shut this down so you guys can see, and you'll probably still need a light. Okay, so I said without too much hassle because I've got the Chinese 7.5-inch intercooler kit thing. I've also got the transmission cooler. I've just got a lot of shit down there that's not supposed to be down there, and it is a bit tight, but hopefully, well, you know, when you get to my age, you're used to fitting things in tight spaces. Right. Bullshit, it's in. However, did it clip on the bottom? I better check that. Oh, it did. It's actually locked in place. How has that happened so easy? That's the easiest that's ever gone in. And we have one screw here, which locates the thermofan. Thermofan's in. So from this point, it's basically all the fluids. Now I have done a list up. I need to do oil, oh God, whoa. Need to do the oil filter, need to do engine oil, power steering fluid, transmission fluid and coolant. I also need to prime the engine with oil before we actually fire it for the first time, because obviously she's quite dry inside from all the cleaning. Things like the cams, they were still covered in oil, but and so was all the bottom end, but we need to get some oil pressure up before we fire it. So I'll probably just disconnect the fuel pump in the boot and do it that way so there's no fuel at the front. Well, I'll disconnect the fuel pump and the injectors just to make sure it doesn't accidentally fire or anything like that. So I've got to crack on with getting some fluids in it. So I've just found the second thing I haven't connected. Fuck. The hose that goes to the overflow bottle. I don't even know where it is. Shit. I'm gonna try and find it. Okay. Luckily there's heaps of room. And luckily my hands haven't been tortured over the last few days, so everything feels sweet. There it is. Oh, fuck. That's made such a mess. Yeah, right, she's on. Let me clean up that mess. Okay guys, so I've had the coolant filled pretty much all the way to the top of the reservoir and disconnected the fuel pump, disconnected the coils and connected the battery. Now the intention was to bleed the coolant, and to bleed the coolant on these things you turn the ignition on, hold the accelerator pedal for 10 seconds and it fires up the water pump, which ain't working. Unfortunately, now I'll try and hold the microphone up to it, but it sounds like my water pump has died. So it's just clicking and it's not actually firing. So I hope you can see it, it's in there anyway. There's the sucker. Now, so that is a problem because I don't have the water pump from the parts car. It was damaged in the crash. And obviously I can't run this without a water pump. So, all I can really do at this point is fill it with oil. I've got to drop that coolant again and get another water pump. Okay, so another quick update. We've been messing around with this water pump for a very long time. I started to get concerned that it might be the connector not seating properly. I've cleaned out the connector with contact cleaner, airline, tried to shave all the pins, and it just goes click, 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 and then every now and again it'll pulse for like a second. So if actually the coolant is bleeding, but I'm still a little bit concerned there's not going to be coolant in all the water jackets. It's a big concern because obviously we've completely had the engine empty of coolant. Now I did go and grab, we've got ISTA connected at the moment, also had the JB4 connected to check scan codes, and we're actually getting that code to E92 electrical cooling pump switch off. Now, scarily, I had that fault code on, where is it? The 25th of August, which was one of the last few times I ran the car. So when I was running it with the compression problem, that fault code did actually come up. I just put it down to things being weird, voltage issues because the car had been sitting. I don't know, but it may have been a pre-existing problem, and it sucks because it's a pain in the ass to change a water pump now. What I've decided to do, now I know it's sketchy, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to fill it with oil, bleed the oil. When I say bleed the oil, turn the engine over, get the oil through the engine and just see if it fires. There's a good chance that was a pre-existing issue with the water pump. Annoyingly, that water pump is about 1 year old, maybe 13 months old, and it was $600. It was a lot of money. It really sucks. But I'll be able to get one this week. It just means I won't be able to drive it this weekend. or get it hot. So what I want to do is basically just fire it, see if it fires, see if it knocks, and then basically turn it off. Because there might not be coolant around all the cylinders, which is kind of scary. All right, let's crack on with getting it full of all of its fluids. Okay, so it's been another half an hour and we're still sort of trying to manually bleed, pressurize the tank, squeeze all the air out, and it's just to try and get as much coolant in the head as possible. It really sucks, there's no other way to do it. Something that is weird, the water pump is now, so it was pulsing like every second. You hear it go click, 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 and then maybe every 2 or 3 minutes it would run for 3 seconds. It's running for every 3 seconds, like every 45 seconds to a minute. So we're getting a little bit of bleeding going on, but you can still hear air down in the water pump when it does fire properly. Unfortunately, I'm just going to try it. So I've got to get some power steering fluid in, and then the next thing you're going to see is us cranking the engine with the ignition and the fuel all turned off to prime it for oil. So I was trying to film it. It seems to be getting more and more frequent with how often the fuel pump, the water pump runs. Aren't these cars just magical? So yeah, I have now filled up the power steering fluid, and I think I'm just going to turn the engine over. Turn the engine over. Let's try it. I don't know if you can hear that, but the water pump is now on properly. Does it feel like it's water going through it? It just stopped. But it does turn on and off. All right, we'll keep trying to bleed this. All right, so since the last camera, we've ran it through another probably 4 or 5 bleed cycles. So I'm starting to get pretty confident that we've got coolant in the engine. I am not going to drive the car with that water pump. I need to get another one. But we'll see how we go. Now, something that did cross our minds, it was mainly Mark's, but good idea. We've removed the spark plugs to do the first cranking. I was going to leave them in initially because I was being lazy, but just in case something's gone wrong with that head gasket and we filled the cylinders up with coolant, we thought we'd have the spark plugs out, so if it does turn over, we don't bend any rods without boost, because that would be really annoying. But I think we're ready to crank it over, try and get the oil flowing. Now, I did fill up the... Oh, look at this mess. I did fill up the oil filter housing with oil as much as I could before it drained back in. There would have still been a little bit of oil in the oil cooler. And I've still got this trim panel off from the other night. So yeah, it's just a matter of, I'm going to turn it off, just letting it turn over and see what happens. Car on, brakes on. That's scary. Any funny noises there, Mark? Okay.
Do you want to come listen?
No. Right, I'll do it again. Makes me nervous. Can you smell E85?
Yeah.
How? Unless there was E85 still in the fuel rail. I didn't drain the fuel rail completely.
Yeah, that could be.
So it's probably still pumping a little bit of E85, because the injectors will pulse when it's like this. Even though there's no fuel pressure, they will still try and start. All right, I guess it's time. I really don't know. I mean, that should have splashed oil around everywhere. Let's have a look in here. Not that you can really see. Oh, yep, there is. Well, of course, there's oil on top. That's how I filled it. I'm new. Right. Do you reckon one more of them? That's quite a long time. That will get oil. If it's going to get oil through the engine, that would have done it. One more. Okay, one more. Ow. Ow. We're draining the battery. All right, that's also really bad for the starter motor, but I was hoping that having no spark plugs in there wouldn't have been loading the starter motor up that much. All right, coils back in, fuel pump plugged back in. We'll see if it fires. Wish us luck. Seriously, in the comments, type wish us luck. Wish you luck right now. This is scary. Okay guys, right now we have the coils and the plugs back in. The fuel pump is connected. I'm going to turn the car on, turn the JB4 on, check that we have low pressure fuel pressure. Getting nervous, we're getting close. Can't even put the key in. Okay. Now I think that warning light's come up on the dash because...
Whoa, stop, kill it.
Where'd it come out?
You've got a here, it's not tightened up, fuel pressure.
Which one?
This one here.
Okay. Well spotted. Fuck. Poo came out. I was like, is it on fire? I think it might be a bit bigger than that.
Yeah, it is. How tight is this thing going to be?
68 Newton meters. Bigger than that.
68.
We'll come back in a second, guys. All right, so I've tightened the fuel rail up. That was kind of important. Whoops. And I've, with an airline, dried all the fuel off so we don't have any sudden flashes of fire. But if we do, there is a fire extinguisher somewhere in here that will only take 10 or 20 minutes to find. All right, so attempt 2. Okay, so we'll power it on again. Any leaks?
Up top, we look fine. I'm just going to go underneath.
Now, let's turn the, okay, JB4 is on.
Nothing. Looks good.
Let's just read the codes. Oh no. Connect the JB4. I'm just going to clear the fault codes because it would have thrown some codes before. Actually, I've only got 15 psi low fuel pressure, and that'll just be because it's all bleeding air out the system. So I'll just turn it off and turn it back on, and on again. Now we're up to 40 psi low fuel pressure. Turn it off again, on again. Okay, we have 60 psi low fuel pressure, which is what we want. Now, go to codes, read codes. Sorry about the BMW buzzing. Just see if we can shut it up. No codes, all right. I'm breathing heavy. Are you recording?
Yep.
All right, we'll try and start it. I'm gonna log the start.
Stop.
What?
I'll get you to listen to it.
Okay, I'm gonna review the footage. Let me know when the ignition's on.
Yep.
Okay, JB4 is connected. All right guys, so what we just did then, I just had a quick look at the JB4 logs, and it didn't have good high pressure fuel pressure. It didn't go over about 750 PSI, where on cold start it should shoot up to sort of 1500. So I'm guessing it's just air in the lines. So we're gonna try again. I don't think there's anything weird, but Mark's gonna start it. Go for it. It's all right. I think it's just air in the lines. Yeah. All right, kill it. Okay, so that ran for a few seconds. It seems to be running fine, no knocks. I'm gonna have another quick look at the logs and I'll see you guys in a second. So just check that log again and we've got pretty good, it's a bit hard to do one-handed. We have pretty good fuel pressure now. You can see it's that one at the bottom. Holds 13, 12. So yeah, the rough running on that first start was just the fuel pressure. Again, I don't want to get it properly hot at this point. I have got underneath, can't see any oil leaks apart from the sump plug, which I hadn't torqued up because again, I wasn't expecting to get everything right. Doesn't seem to be many coolant leaks, or any coolant leaks apart from when we were bleeding the system. No fuel leaks. Boost leaks are going to be something we'll have to wait once we get it under proper load, but let me just start the logging, Mark. Ignition on?
Yep.
You'll turn the AC off. Okay, kill it. All right, there seemed to be a funny noise. I thought it might have been the drive belt, but the alternator is nearly on fire. The alternator is really hot. So I need to do some research in there. Now I did try and clean, this engine just had so much gunk and shit on it. You might have seen it in the other clips, but I did try and clean this alternator out a little bit. So maybe something's fallen down into a bearing. I just cleaned it with brake clean. Maybe I shouldn't have done that, but I was just trying to get all the oil and dirt and stuff that was built up in the front of it. But I am surprised at how hot that's gotten. I just want to check that, make sure it's not overcharged or doing anything weird. It will be trying to top the battery back up. But the engine itself, I think is okay. It's not making any funny noises. There's no warnings on the dash, was there?
No.
There are no warnings.
No warning.
Just to clarify, no fault codes, which is weird because the water pump's fucked. It should be showing a fault code.
Except the check engine light.
Has it got a check engine? Ah, you fucker. I think we're good. All right, I might do another startup. I want to do a little bit more looking into this alternator, but for this video, which I know is going to be a long one, we've started it up. The E90 engine works. I've got to swap the friggin' fuel pump, with the friggin' water pump, which is really annoying. I'll make sure there's not something weird going on with this alternator. Luckily, that's probably the easiest accessory to change if I do need to change it, and I have got the alternator off the E90 sitting on the floor over there. Guys, it's getting there, thank Christ. And yeah, the other thing I forgot was the coolant line, the fuel line. Nothing too major. Oh, and the sump plug. I think we're good. All right. We'll catch you on the next one. You'll see a video update on this probably in a couple of days. I'm going to try and get the new water pump expressed, so hopefully we'll see it on Tuesday, so we can actually do a road test with this. I can run it like that, and I'll probably do a few more tests and quick startups like what we've just done, just to keep checking everything. I do need to get it up to full running temperature and check the transmission fluid. That's one thing I haven't done, because we have lost a bit of transmission fluid, but yeah, this is good. As far as anything major, the engine didn't squeal, sounds like it's got compression, it starts pretty quickly. In fact, can you give it another start? Yeah, we're good. Sorry? He said no check engine light. Yeah, you can turn it off. All right, guys. She's running again. We will catch you on the next one. Peace.